I've made up this mind. I'm keeping this Blu-ray. I'm going to keep this Blu-ray. Ooh.
And welcome to another episode of...
I wondered when you broke out in spontaneous song.
Yeah, look, I do...
Something.
Like, I break out into spontaneous song anyway. This is a thing that is 100% true. You know, like, I try to start every episode with a dog story these days. So,
yes.
One thing that I do is I like to sing to my dog. And
all right.
So when I'm getting him treats, I sing a song to him that is to the tune of Springtime for Hitler from the producers.
Yep. Springtime for Hitler and Germany.
Except mine is, it's treat time for Johnson and Germany.
And Germany. So
and
Germany's getting a treat as well. Yeah.
Right. Well, you know, they're rearming. Let's keep them on the right side of things. I also do that with when it's time to feed him in the mornings, because the first thing I do when I wake up is I take him outside so he can evacuate his bowels. Mm-hmm. And so on the way back in, I start singing breakfast time to the tune of closing time. All of that is 100% true.
That's meanwhile going by. Never fucking sang to me. Did he sing to you? No, he never sang to me.
Yeah, no, the cats are like, this asshole has turned coat real fast. See how he enjoys the poop on his bed. And I am... All right, cover for me, Duncan. Say stuff.
I am saying stuff right now on the microphone because this is how you say things in a microphone. You just keep talking without taking any plausible long-term break. And thus, the people out there in the listenership think that you have something written down, a script, if you will. There is no script. We've went off script. This is panning for time to make sure that Bo does what Bo does.
That is the worst stalling for time as I'm trying to publicly share the fact that we are doing this show.
You are welcome, Bo. That's what I do. That's what I bring here, is the worst padding of time ever.
All right, and you know what I bring to the table, Duncan? A
yes.
whole lot of right.
You are surprisingly right on a lot of counts. The chickens have come home to roost. Although I'm still holding on to my theory.
I don't disagree. Like, both things can be true, and that's the beauty of slasher.
Well, that was what we wanted. That's like at the start we wanted us both to be right, because that's like, this is the first season where I think plausibly, although watch this, we'll get into the next episode and we will see Dr. Death's body, you know, in like many little fragments. But like this could be the first season, because the previous ones we both kind of landed on the same assumption, and this one we went in two completely different directions early on, and there is a chance that both are right.
It's nuts, man. The fact that both of our crackpot theories, yours was more legit than mine, which is why I'm so proud of this, is that mine was the more ridiculous theory that has 100% been proven.
Yeah. And it wasn't even like, it was so on the nose, Bo, that I wanted to punch myself in the face. That's how on the nose it actually was. Because, and the thing is, like, we got some more kind of background details on a particular character, and I'm fairly sure the people that were involved with the casting, the showrunners themselves, and the actress playing Afra had never typed in to, I don't know, like YouTube or something, Moldovan accent, because like literally, I mean, that's the worst thing, is they made her sound like a Neanderthal, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's like, that is not how.
You're right, and
not how people talk.
And we'll get to it. We'll get to it, because
I was like, she's foreign. It's like, is that what we're playing with here? I just thought she was. I don't know.
I thought she was handicapped. Yeah. So, all right. First of all, what up, Rayman? Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Before we get into, and I told you this before we started, it is rare that I say to myself, I'm really excited to talk about this episode of Slasher.
Yeah.
And I am. and yes. not just because I'm right, which doesn't hurt.
It helps. It's a cherry on top of the muffin.
It is
the frosting. The frosting on top of the muffin bowl.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. The frosting on the muffin is how I've always heard it.
Yeah. It's a cherry on the sundae.
Right. And it's less.
It's not as good as the frosting on top of the muffin.
I just don't hear it as much. But not only was I really right, it's kind of a batshit episode. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
100%, yeah. Like, it's 100% a batshit episode. And in fairness, like, that's a good thing, because the previous 2 episodes were painfully boring. Like, painfully boring. Like, pedestrian to the point of, are we actually doing anything here? So this one has picked up the pace in a more fun way. It has, however, just once again reinforced that this is a terrible fucking show with just really badly written characters, like across the board. There's a couple of motivations by certain characters, or even conversations with certain characters, that just don't make sense this far into the season. Like, people
Absolutely
just wouldn't be speaking to each other like this, or doing these things, or so I mean, once you pick that aside, though, you will get some stuff in this episode that will make you smile and or scratch your head as to how we got here.
It's a big body count, which I like.
Yes.
And it's nuts. But before we do that, 2 things. Initially, I will say, before we get started with our movies, good and bad, which I know you saw The Northman, so I'm assuming
I saw it last night.
So I have to say, I don't want to say his name publicly because I don't know if he wants that, but
I thought I'd like, is it Beetlejuice? You're not allowed to say it 3 times. You can say it twice, though, if you want, or if it's Candyman, at least 4 times. Just don't do the 5th.
This is unrelated, but easily the funniest joke in the movie Ted is when the stuffed animal is going to conjure Beetlejuice, and Mark Wahlberg gets genuinely upset about it. Like, don't you bring him in here, bro. We can't get rid of a Beetlejuice that easy. Very funny joke. No, I just don't want, I don't want to call out his name if he doesn't want his name called out. That's the point. But I got one of the best gifts I've gotten in some time. And so bear Hold on. Get this. Does that play?
It's like you encapsulated in a picture.
Dude, it's wonderful. I'm not sure where to put it just yet.
Yeah.
But it will soon have the problem is I don't have room in the office for it. But that's
make
where
room.
It needs to be.
Extend.
Right. I'll have to build an addition onto the house just for this and the light coming down on it, and
the gallery wing of the Ransdell household.
So one longtime friend of this show and many others had sent me a message and said, hey, if I was gonna send you a gift, where would I send it? And so I sent him my address, and I had a joke with my lady friend about how, like, look, when I get this thing, it could be a bomb. There's a non-zero chance that I'm going to open this thing up and it's just, kaboom. And then, this here is the end of Bo. But instead it was that.
Yeah.
And I was over the moon. I'm so pleased by this. Like you said, it is just me in a frame.
Oh God, 100%. Yeah.
It's bears and big feet and Wilford Brimley and a Ouija board. Like, it's everything that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And I again, for gentleman who sent this to me, it is one of my favorite gifts I've ever received. It is wonderful. I love it. So, and in a pinch, I've got a Ouija board. If I ever have a haunting situation, all I got to do is get.
I don't know if it will legitimately work though, because you've got a yes, I know, but you don't have a god damn it on there. So I don't know.
But it just points to the bridge.
Just goes to the.
Listen, god damn it! You gotta say goodbye to the board. You don't do that, so you're gonna get eat up with spirits, goddammit. So it's wonderful. I love it so much. If other people would like to send me Wilford Brimley, Sasquatch, or
like don't open that door. Don't open that door.
Or grizzly
bear
related.
Whole section of the dark web that you're not aware of, Bo. Right?
I'm gonna get dark webbed with Wilford Brimley merch.
You're gonna get like a bottle of tequila with Wilford Brimley's toe in the bottom of it.
Oh,
the one that he got the really bad diabetes in.
That just makes you hallucinate the movie The Firm. Sit back and relax, goddammit. It's a pretty good one.
He's great in The Firm. He really is.
He's great in everything. And the fact that I now can conjure his spirit at will.
Well, yeah, like I do like this idea that, you know, he made some sort of Faustian pact back in like the 50s to have an acting career when he came out of Korea, that the you know, the devil essentially has paid that back by condemning him, very like the very beginning of the movie The Witches, where he's now trapped in that painting.
Yeah.
So you do have like a direct conduit, and all he wants is to rest in the afterlife, but you're not going to let him.
Yeah. What do you want now, goddammit? I just wanted to hear your voice. That's all I wanted. Oh, damn it. I'm trying. It's supposed to be the afterlife. I'm supposed to be able to take a goddamn break. Not with me around. Not with this board, Wilford Brimley. Tell me about what Don Amici was like in Cocoon. Oh, all right. He was a pleasure, goddammit. He's a professional and a gentleman. Anyway, let's get to the movies that we watched. Thank you again. This is one of the best gifts I've ever received. It's wonderful.
Actually, there's too much laughing for an episode that's going to be full of laughing, so we need to watch what we're doing, or we're going to end up pulling a muscle.
Yeah, I told you already. I got bad shins here, Duncan.
Yeah.
Any second, I can fall out of this chair. My knees could fall off.
Have you had those bad shins since that picture arrived? Because I think that's the affliction that Wilford Brimley had. Maybe this is what's happening. Maybe.
Oh, it's the Brimley shin curse.
Yep.
I should have. The curse of diabetes. It's ghost diabetes.
Diabetes.
There is no insulin for that, goddammit. That's where you feel other people's feet.
Yeah. Ghost gout.
Yeah. keep Quentin Tarantino's hands off this, goddammit.
It's what happens when you have really dairy enriched ectoplasm.
Yeah.
You get ghost gout.
Oh. It's already my favorite episode of this show we've ever done.
Oh dear.
Anyway, Duncan, enough silliness, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to movies good and bad. You wanna kick us off? You got something in the chamber?
Yeah, I can kick us off with something bad and something good. Let's start with something bad. And it's not terrible, but I do have issues with it. I watched a movie called Kidnapped from 2010. Yes, it is a Spanish horror movie from 2010, and it is currently available on Shudder. And I did it because I thought that was the movie I was going to be discussing last night on Chronicle, only to find out that is not the movie my guest actually picked. And thankfully, the movie they had actually picked was one that I've seen a couple of times before, but I had watched recently, so we had not lost that time frame. But Kidnapped is probably most famous for being shot in 12 long takes and then put together. So it's like a movie of 12 long takes. And that's probably about as highest praise that you can give it, to be honest. The version that's on Shudder is one of the worst English dub versions of a movie I have ever seen. Like, it's 2010, so there's no excuse. It's Spanish, once again, no fucking excuse. And it's Shudder, which I kind of actually felt a little bit kind of pissed off that Shudder would put something like that up there. A service which, if anything, is catered and aimed to horror fans. Why are we getting dubs? Why are we getting needless dubs up there when you could just play the original Spanish with the subtitles? Not entirely sure why they did that. To me, that feels a bit. And there's no option to change off that. Yeah, it's hard coded. There's no option to turn it off. That's the version that's on there. So you're stuck with it, and it really is bad. There's really, the voice acting is terrible. The story itself is relatively predictable. A group of kind of thieves break into this house of this affluent family, kidnap the dad, and hold the wife and the daughter ransom. While one of the kidnappers takes the father out to different cash machines to empty his account, and the other ones are left there. And obviously things go a bit gnarly and a bit nasty. So, like I say, like in terms of that side of things, isn't gratuitously violent in any way. It doesn't really push anything. Like the director, doing a bit of research, the director said he wanted to make something that felt like it could happen to kind of accentuate the terror. Mm-hmm. And I understand that, but like I say, I don't think it ever really goes to that level where that could work its way through. And the best thing I can say is, it's technical craft, it's technical prowess of those long shots pieced together are really well done, but very much like kind of later day Argento, you're watching it going, the camera work is so great in this. Why is he acting so shit? And that's kind of where I landed on it. So I couldn't, in good conscience, recommend it to anyone as like, you need to see this movie, unless you're into movies that are a bit more of a marvel on a technical level, because there's no money spent on this. It was a very, very, very cheap movie, but they managed to pull it off in a really interesting way. But the storytelling is fairly unoriginal, and the acting, because I think the acting, because of the dubbing, is just a bit flat.
What was the one that Jennifer Lawrence was in a long time ago?
House at the End of the Street?
Yeah, that was like a one take. I mean, they hide some edits in there, but that was the same kind of thing where it's like, this movie's not great, but it's kind of interesting on that level.
Yeah, that was the one that was shelved for... I think it was going to be permanently shelved, and then her career took off, and then they made a mad dash to try and put it out. I don't even think she acknowledges it like as one of her movies, but just because I think it was universally, when they filmed it, it was just kind of universally recognized that it wasn't a great movie. So the studio was like, we ain't doing anything with this. And then she like all of a sudden blew up with the Hunger Games, and they were like, we need to release this movie. And if you actually see the cover artwork for it, I'm sure it's all like Jennifer Lawrence, Hunger Games, which they will do from time to time.
She gave it the old Jennifer Aniston Leprechaun treatment, where she's like, oh, I wasn't in that.
Yeah, I'd like, how I wasn't in that, because that's not my nose.
Yeah. Well, Duncan. Oh, cutting deep, as did her surgeon.
Yeah. Which is kind of ironic, because, I like to say it's a knowing joke, because in the TV show Friends, they joke about how she's had a nose job all the way through that show. Like, her nose used to look... They sent it a bit more hooky, but... yeah, so that was my bad. So not a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination, but there are much better examples of movies that do similar things, like maybe Panic Room, son.
Good movie.
Which is like, I mean, once again, it's single set location for the most part. It's like, and they even have the same kind of dilemma between, because like when it's kidnappers, this is the thing, a movie trope that I fucking hate, because it doesn't happen in real life, like ever. Is like, there's like a group of kidnappers, and there's always one of them that's like grows a conscience in the middle of the, well, I didn't think we were going to be here to do this.
Yeah, right,
yeah, I know you fucking did, because you signed up for it. Like, show me one real world example of kidnappers where someone finds a conscience halfway through the horrible, horrific act they're doing and goes, you know what, I'm out. It never fucking, but it always happens in the movies, and I don't know why they do it. It's terrible trope.
We haven't seen the end of the kidnapping thing with Slasher, so it could happen there as well. Anyway, so let me lay down my bad for this episode.
Lay it down.
And my bad is a recent Netflix release called Choose or Die.
Yeah, I saw this come up and I chose not to watch, which was the hidden third option. So
Choose die or don't watch. Don't watch is the way to go. I'm kind of a sucker for, hey, this video game is actually, haunted by the devil or something.
It's real, Bo.
Yeah. Video games can kill you. If you die in the game, you die for real. This isn't even that.
Oh no!
It's so the basic premise is
yeah, like a nasty hand cramp or something.
No, it's not that. It's not a real video game though. It's just like the game. It's like an old text game or something where it's like, hey, you've got the example that they open up with is Eddie Marsan is in it. Strangely,
That's weird casting.
He's. Everybody in the movie is a British actor doing an American accent. Everybody. Which is
the way
also
things are going.
great.
We just cannot rely. I don't know if you know about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard debacle that's happening right now, or the stuff that happened between an American actor and a comedian on stage at your Oscars. No one trusts the Americans now, right?
Right.
You're, like those acting jobs are being outsourced to everyone just now, right? That's just the way things are going. Can't be trusted.
Americans are just too naturally violent to allow on a set at this point?
I think that's what it is. I think for insurance purposes, like a movie won't be made if there's an American in the acting crew. I think from now on it has to be solely British actors in all the roles.
All right. Well, I'm on one level I'm not against it. On another level, knock it off. But so I'll give you just the opening scene. So it's Eddie Marsan having a beer, playing this game. He has found this old console, this old Commodore 64 kind of thing, and flips it on. There's a game called Cursor, like curse.
Yeah, but he doesn't. He's thinking it's a cursor, but
yeah, he doesn't know.
This movie's punny. You didn't tell me this movie was going to be punny.
He don't know that, Duncan. So he turns this thing on, and it's like he finishes his beer and puts it on the counter, and then the game says like, would you like another draft of ale or whatever? And he's like, yes. And then bingo bango, there's a magic beer that appears, which at first you're like, oh, well, this is the perfect video game.
This is the best game ever.
Right. But then it starts asking like, do you want to like have your son disfigured or whatever? Yes or no? And anyway, it's just a lot of nonsense.
Things escalated quickly. It was asking me for a beer a second ago.
Really jumped. And anyway, but that's the whole gig, is that like you have to choose a one thing or another. It's always kind of a monkey's paw situation where even the good solution seems.
This is like Wishmaster.
Kind of. What is your wish?
It's literally Wishmaster.
And yeah, kinda. And so then throughout the movie, by the way, Robert Englund credited in this movie does not show his face one time. They use his voice. His voice is in the movie, but that's it. And which is
he's about to get like that. He's about to be everywhere all over again because he's in that new season of Stranger Things, and that he's about to get a big old rub from that. So fair play to him.
Yeah, fine, great, good for Freddy Krueger. But there's a moment where they call, like, it's this 80s style, hey, you call this 900 line. And potentially you can win some money for playing this game Cursor. And it's Robert Englund is the voice on the line. And so, which is his only appearance in the movie, by the way, so don't get your hopes up when you see his name on this. But Asa Butterfield is the guy in the movie.
Yeah.
And he's trying to explain to the female lead like who Robert Englund is. And the way you do that is you say, he's Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, yes.
But apparently they did not have the rights to use that name. So instead...
What movie did he use, Bo?
No movie at all. He just makes Freddy Krueger motions. And it's like, he's the guy with the knives. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, right, I don't know what you're talking about either. And I've seen every one of those.
Scissorhands? Like,
right.
It's Johnny
just,
Depp. He's in court right now with Amber Heard.
It's so lazy and cheap. And there are
why have him in to do that, to set up that if you don't have the rights to say it on the screen?
I get the movie certainly sets itself up for a sequel, so I guess maybe the idea is that you can.
No, not
But
2020.
yeah, no, it
No.
ends in a way that is like, oh well, the game is afoot.
This is the escape room thing.
Mm.
This is exactly what it is now. We're all doing this again, and we need to stop. We need to put an end to it now.
It's a bad movie. You should not watch Choose or Die. It is. I know Netflix has been making overtures for a while that they're gonna go harder on horror movies, which isn't like my knee-jerk reaction to that is like, great, more horror movies is always better. But then I'm like, well, you have to know which ones. Like,
this is the problem. Like, if you're listening and following the trends of studios, that's not always the best approach when it comes to releasing horror content.
Yeah.
Because the movies that tend to do the gangbusters money are not always the best barometers of the best horror that year, if you know what I mean. So,
well, and the last two that Netflix has produced themselves or released themselves were that terrible Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie,
which I am watching next week for the first time. So
that's a real piece of garbage. And then Choose or Die, and it's like, well, your two original horror offerings in the past 2 or 3 months, both of them are less than stellar. Let's be genteel about it and say it that way. But yeah, not a great start for Netflix's new foray into the world of horror. But that is my bad. What is your good, Duncan?
Last night I went to go and see The Northman, the new Robert Eggers movie. I believe estimated $90 million project.
Oh, great.
And it looks like he spent every single penny of that putting it on the screen. He's just like, I posted this last night. Robert Eggers is working on a completely different level to like almost anyone else making films at the moment. Just like a tour de force of just visuals, authenticity, reverence to the source materials, like every single second of this. Now, I have recently pretty much binge watched this year anyway. I binge watched the whole History Channel Vikings TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And then rolled right into that Netflix Valhalla show, like squared that one away. So I was I was all in already for this. And like, it's just the thing about it as well. We had a conversation about this months ago when we were talking about, it's his adaptation of Hamlet on the screen, but in the Viking world. And I'd said at the time, like from the trailer that I saw, I was getting kind of heavy Conan vibes from it as well. And that's basically what it is. It's like if you got Hamlet and you got Conan and you mashed them together, but the director who was making it was like, this must, like, we come out the cinema, me and Baz was like, what did you think? And I was like, 3 words for you, Baz: Viking as fuck. Like, literally is the most pagan Viking thing I've ever fucking seen. Like, he just nails every visual. The camera work is amazing. Like, you feel like these places exist. And just when you're like that, right, I've got a grasp of what's happening in this movie, he raises it up. It's about a 2-hour, 40-minute movie, and it fucking flies. And there's about an hour of it, which is just kind of setting up the parts for what's going to happen at the end. So it's not like big, massive action set pieces or anything. It's like characters interacting, life going on and all the rest. And it just, the time evaporates when you're watching this. You're drawn in. Performances are chef's kiss. The main dude, whose name escapes me, is one of the Skarsgård. So.
Yeah, the one from True Blood.
Yeah, Eric from True Blood. Yeah. He's fucking great in it. And Nicole Kidman, who is just like, see in the last 5-6 years, she's been on a murderer's row of performances. Like she's making some of the best stuff she's ever fucking done. She's great in it.
Alexander Skarsgård, by the way, is his
that's
name.
the one. Yeah. So, which I think now means. I think that now means they've all been in something to do with Viking movies, apart from the youngest one. I think because the dad is what's his face, Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah.
And he was in the Thor movie, so kind of.
It's Viking-esque. Yeah.
And then you've got him. He's been in one. Oh no, the Pennywise dude hasn't been in one yet, but the other one is in Vikings. So his other brother plays a Floki in Vikings. So yeah, they've all kind of, and I would like to say that's kind of typecasting because they're all Swedish, but it's nothing to do with that. So he's great. Willem Dafoe is amazing. Bjork's in it for a cameo. Bjork's appearance, it's fucking amazing. Like everything is just absolutely mind blowing. And then it finishes, and I can't tell you where it finishes or what it finishes on, but it finishes in a place where you're just like that. It's maybe the most metal movie I've ever seen in my entire life. I shit you not. Like by the end of this movie, I was like, this is the most metal. Like all it was missing is like a sea of Marshall stacks and Slash on the edge of a fucking cliff playing a guitar with wind and fire in his hair. Is that metal? It's just a brilliant movie. And once again, nothing that you've not. It's a conventional revenge story. You know, he's using source material that, you know, is obviously has inspired everyone. But it's the way the movie's constructed. It's his attention to the time period, the folklore, like just everything feels like when someone's doing something, it feels arduous. You feel the weight of what they're doing, which you don't get in a lot of movies nowadays. Like if they're slaves doing something and they're lifting heavy materials, you should be feeling the weight of that as the audience. And you do all the way through it. And I still don't think it's his best movie. I think The Witch is always going to be his best movie.
Which he came out recently and was like, I can't watch The Witch because I think,
which is nuts,
right? You're like, somebody else said this, but it was like, I wish I lived in a world where I fucked up and made The Witch by accident.
Yeah,
you know, like,
yeah.
That was the bad movie I did.
Yeah, I imagine, like, because we see it from the audience perspective. Like, we don't know if that was just like an absolute pain in the balls to make. And as a result, he can see the flaws that we can't see, the small attentions to detail that like we are seeing as maybe being credits to the movie, he sees as being like kind of foibles. I don't know, but The Witch is just such a, but like you're watching this movie and I can literally see the lineage of his work.
Yeah.
There are more nods to The Witch in this movie than I imagine like people will expect. And then at the same time, there are huge swaths of it that kind of feel like, oh, well, you've just taken a specific aspect or a vibe from The Lighthouse and brought this over. So he's a director that you can literally link those movies in terms of the storytelling, the way they're crafted, shots, like just everything. It's mind-blowing, and like would be one of these things where I'd be like that, well, you know, he's easily one of the best directors walking the planet this year. If we didn't have, before the end of the year as well, a new Ari Aster movie coming out. It's
like they need to do opposite years. Like we need Robert Eggers one year, Ari Aster the next. They need to work that out.
Yeah,
I've made this request to both of their offices.
Like it's the thing. It's like it's gonna overload my brain. But yeah, if you're interested in a movie, and the Northman will not be making any end of year horror lists. Just want to stress that I understand the pivot for Lighthouse. I obviously understand the conversation for The Witch. You can't do that with The Northman. It is just a straight up, good old fashioned revenge action movie, just a period version of that. But it's like I know for a fact that you're just going to be sitting there smiling ear to ear when you watch it. But just expect those big swaths of Conan through it in surprising ways. Like even with like certain musical cues kicking, because all the music once again authentic to the time. They really go and like get these kind of Viking dirges and all the rest, and they're performed in such a way. But then there's certain battle scenes, and everything's kind of quiet, and then out of nowhere, you're like, oh fuck!
Yeah, it sounds great. I will see it soon.
I think we got it before you guys, which makes zero sense. I think you guys get it this weekend coming. So the next one, we got it a week earlier, which I don't know why. But then you guys got the We're All Going to the World's Fair officially released a week ahead of us. So
I'm so glad you brought that up, Duncan. My good this week
segue
is We're All Going to the World's Fair. We talked about this on Your Good, so I'm not going to reiterate too much of what has already been said.
Good though, eh?
It's one of those things that, like, you and I were talking about this after I saw it. It's a movie that feels very much of this time, and
yes,
and has an interesting take on the idea of being on the internet, what internet culture is. I think you can make the argument that this is not, strictly speaking, a horror movie.
That's where I come in. Like, I understand if someone wants to say that they think it is, but to me, the way I thought about it was, it's kind of similar way where that Slender Man documentary that HBO put out, which, like, if you saw the trailers for that, I was like, oh, holy shit, this is dark. Is this like a horror true crime doc? And then I watched it and I was like, well, no, it's actually just more like a kind of more drama documentary kind of centered around, like creepypastas, the internet, and the youth, and small town attitudes, and, like parents' responsibility or lack of interaction in their kids' lives and all the rest. And that's kind of what was, but the way it was like pitched was horror, and I kind of feel the same way. I think there's bits in it that can definitely take in those directions. I don't personally feel comfortable calling it a horror movie. I think it dips its toe, and no more than its toe in certain aspects. That being said, though, like you say, the wider conversation about its relevance and its importance, specifically the kind of what the internet does to teenagers or just anyone who's vulnerable enough and isolated enough. What it opens is, because you only ever hear the great stories or the really bad stories. You don't hear the stories about like the mundane things that the internet, helps you do things like this, Bo. Like sit down, record content. Like there's no medal for doing that. You know what I mean? It's like either it's one extreme or the other when we talk about the effect of the internet. And this movie kind of wades in that area in between. And I think that's what's really interesting about it. I'm not like, it's still going through my brain. I still am thinking about it weeks from watching it, which is not something that you often get with a lot of movies these days. So
yeah, it's definitely hung with me, and one of the things I like most about it is that it's this really interesting discussion about the kind of people we present ourselves to be on the internet, as well as the vulnerable stuff that you were mentioning of like teenagers being vulnerable. But there's also like the trapping of it is this sort of internet game, and that leads to a moment where it's like, oh, okay, well, some people, Duncan, I don't know if you've heard about this here in the United States. Some internet rumors and conspiracies seem to be taken as the truth by a segment of the population. And I think
there's a rumor going around. I think there's actually a conspiracy theory on that conspiracy theory, Paul.
Yeah. So it's one of those things like We're All Going to the World's Fair is a very small movie. It's beautifully shot. There's some of the imagery of like this town that the main character lives in, and it's just like these are the American towns where like manufacturing is gone and that kind of thing, and here's what's left behind. Just these very poverty stricken, hard scrabble kinds of towns, and it's really good. It's really affecting, and I don't think it's a perfect movie by any stretch, but it's one of those movies that kind of, burrowed into my brain and has resided there since seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, first time director, first time leading actress.
Oh, she's so good.
And she's excellent in it.
Anna Robb, I think
cast,
her name is. Yeah.
Two cast members in the movie.
Yeah.
And a voice. Like who's not Freddy Krueger. So like
Robert Englund getting paid for this again. So Ramman points out that he would like a roundtable discussion with Eggers, Astor, Del Toro, and have it moderated by Jordan Peele. And that would be
Jordan Peele has a movie out this year as well, just in case anyone forgot. July as well. So
it's a good time to be a horror fan. I will say that.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's interesting about that is like there is. I mentioned it before. A24 do a podcast where they get two directors in or two like people that are involved in projects, and there's an incredible one with Astor and Eggers talking. They're supposed to be talking about each other's movies. At that time, it would have been The Lighthouse and Midsommar. But the two of them just end up talking about Bergman for like about an hour. like, don't you love this movie where he does this? Oh yeah, the camera work in this movie, the storytelling in this movie, and you get like a real good sense of their influences and how that kind of works through, but how like-minded they are. And the interesting thing about it is, as directors, they're not even comparable in the fields that they do. Astor goes for much more unsettling, kind of like the way he tells stories is weirdly obtuse and unsettling, whereas Robert Eggers like manages to achieve like great things by being surprisingly conventional. His movies are generally surprisingly conventional, but it's the artistry around it that elevates it.
And hyper specific, like his attention to detail
is insane.
I mean, it's a Kubrickian level of attention to detail.
Yeah. And like I say, when you sit and you watch like a movie like Northman, like the levels of the detail he's went into at times is just
so good.
It's just mind blowing.
I can't wait.
Absolutely mind blowing.
Referencing Conan that's all you need to do.
I'm telling you, like that. Once you've watched it, we will talk about the exact bit when I was like, "Cram." It's just like it is just all they need to do was rework the score, and I would have like spaffed everywhere. All
right.
So yeah.
Let's get into our dark business here, Duncan.
Speaking about spaffing everywhere.
Yeah. So here's why we're here, and that is to talk about Slasher Season 4, Episode 6. Only 2 more to go, by the way.
Yeah.
And it is an episode called FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
More importantly, it is the episode in which everything that I predicted about this show is proven entirely right. And
except the actual trying to fuck the dad.
I mean, there's one. It's not as
well. She knows that she can't.
Right.
If
but
you know what I mean.
I think she's still kind of horny for him, though.
I don't know.
Anyway, because she said, "Dad, the only one who loved me." Anyway, so we'll get to it.
Is she Jamaican?
I mean, you tell me, Duncan.
Well, yeah. At this stage, we don't know, like at all.
So it opens on the Orphan.
Yes.
Eating.
I was like, "This is an Orphan episode! Yay!"
Eating twine. As all the rest of the survivors, being like Theo and Vincent and Grace and Dawn, kind of debating like, and Liv. We can't forget Liv.
Yeah. No, she will be the lone survivor. We really can't forget about her.
But she's the least interesting character.
She is like, I could not give less of a fuck about Liv. So, and she's a non-entity in this entire episode.
Yeah, and so they're all kind of debating whether or not Theo did the right thing in chaining his mother or tying his mother to her own sculpture and leaving her to die out in the lawn.
Yeah, well, with the kind of the idea being here, like a good old fashioned witch trial. Mm-hmm. If she is the killer, then she'll be there in the morning. But if she is not the killer, then the killer will kill her.
Yeah, I mean it's a real devil's bargain for Florence.
Yeah, which is when we see what happens and the reaction of Theo to his mother, it doesn't make a lick of sense. But this is slasher, and we need to just put that to the side.
I think the idea is that he
apologize for this show.
No.
Apologize.
No, of course not, Duncan.
What, they give you one thing, they give you one killer orphan, and you're now like an Aaron Martin apologist.
Yeah, I'm like, this guy might be a genius.
You're like that. You're like, Duncan, you know how I said maybe we wouldn't be doing a season 5? I'm now thinking, when it comes out, we just do it.
I'm thinking we get early screeners so we can just keep this rolling. Now,
he's never given us anything, Bo. There's now hours and hours and hours of us basically questioning his ability to, I don't know, be a human being.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, that still remains. Like, this episode, as delighted as I was by it,
it's not atoned for all his sins. No, I would agree.
But I also like the fact that Grace is pretty quick to be like, I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, Grace sitting there missing an eye.
Yeah. The woman who shot out my eye. Yeah, I think it's great that she's out there.
Grace is kind of amazing in this episode. Like to me, like, she's a character that has become really, really interesting. She is now our de facto Dawn, which we're going to get to more in this episode.
Yeah.
Because we love Dawn. And this show really, 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 really wanted to put her through the ringer.
Yeah, I again, speaking of metal, I think the way Dawn goes out is reasonably metal as well.
Yeah.
But Liv, meanwhile, is reminding Theo, like, hey, what about waiting for the police to show up on Monday? Wasn't that the whole idea?
That was your plan that you were very vocal about, and you were very judgy of everyone that was against that plan. And now all of a sudden you're like, well, let's dangle my mum out as bait.
All right, so then we go to Florence, the subject of this conversation, and she hears somebody moving around behind her, and she's like, huh? And she's like, Vincent, is that you? You help me get out of here. And then around the corner into her vision comes the orphan, grinning her evil orphan smile.
Yeah, creepy lullaby music starts playing in the background for no reason. La, la, la. La, 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 la.
It's all for you, orphan. and she has some scissors, Duncan.
She has some scissors, and of course, there is the mistaken intent purpose behind those scissors that maybe the orphan has come to set her free.
Yeah, so Florence is like, cut me loose, weird orphan.
Yeah. And I've got a kiln full of lots of things you can burn if you want to. I was like, you also have money. Like, give her money. Like,
well, and so she cuts part of her scarf.
Yeah.
As if she's gonna start eating that because she's got the pica disorder or whatever.
Pica. Yeah.
Pica, orphan. And
although we're gonna get into that as well. Like, we're gonna get into it.
I don't know that it has any place in this episode, but
no.
Anyway, so Florence is like, listen, you dumb orphan. I said
she literally switches on a dime.
Yeah, I said cut me loose, not cut my scarf, you moron. And then the orphan grabs Florence's tongue with a secret pair of pliers that she has.
Just happens to have some pliers lying around.
Went to the boathouse, like apparently,
Yeah.
And Orphan says, you killed Daddy.
Yeah.
And now you pay. And so the Orphan then cuts off Florence's tongue.
With the scissors.
And starts to eat it.
Yeah, right in front of her.
Yeah, and then of course.
While smiling.
Yeah. Wah. Credits. So, and when I see this, Duncan, I'm just taking you through the experience for me.
Is this the point where you sent me a message like the happiest bow in the world, or was that later in the viewing?
No, it's much later in the viewing when it became confirmed that my
like Bo, right. Like for the listeners out there, Bo sent me a message, giddy as a schoolgirl, and I'd assumed you'd finished it, but you must have been mid-viewing because you then later confirmed your happiness when the episode finished. So.
Yeah, this was the first inkling, though, of like, oh my God, is my orphan theory right? because this
What have I done?
Orphan is front and center for this episode, and if it's gonna happen, it's
we
happening.
lean hard into this character, which once again, if this was actually going to pay off in any substantial way, shape, or form out with this episode, I'm kind of fine with. But I know for a fact this is just I don't know for a fact. I have a strong suspicion this is just for this episode sort of thing, which is kind of cool to see, but would be so much better if we got more backstory later on.
The backstory
the backstory here is fucking rank.
It is so stupid, but I love how stupid it is because it includes her rapping, and that was the moment. That was the moment where I was like, "This is maybe the dumbest episode we've ever covered," and I love it.
100%. Yeah, 100%. This is up there amongst. I think the only episode that I can think of that is maybe as dumb as this is the one where the reporter decided to do in the first series. The reporter decided to take on the killer with an interview, and you were like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Right. This would never happen. Never happen. Like, this is on that level, but even more extreme.
So Dawn, our hero,
yes,
is looking around for the orphan, and all the other survivors are like, "We haven't seen your crazy kid."
Yeah.
And Dawn's like, "Well, it's crazy. She disappears all the time. She likes to hide, and then she leaps out from a dark corner and scares us, and she giggles like a child." So
yeah. Who wants to help me go and get her while there's a killer on the island?
Right. And everybody's like, it's dark outside, and this is stupid. And if your orphan has so little of a survival instinct that she's just going to go wander around with a killer, then maybe you're better off not having
literally what Grace says. Yeah. Literally what Grace is just like that. Listen, if she's prepared to go out there and do that, then maybe we shouldn't be risking our necks for her. And I'm like, you know what? Grace is now my new Dawn.
She's got to be, because we don't. Spoilers. We don't have an old Dawn. But
no, but she does kind of resemble, by the end of this episode, a kind of cross between Gary Oldman at the end of Hannibal and that dude from RoboCop that gets follows into the back.
Yeah, man. So Vincent and Liv almost come to blows again.
Because Vincent has the shortest memory of all people, although we do get confirmed in this one where Vincent says he will not go back to prison, and I'm like, done time, finally, and no one's going to query, or that comment's just going to go over everyone's head that this guy was in jail. Yeah. Right, that's right. Well, they don't care, Bo. I don't care, so say Livy.
And it's up to Grace, aka New Dawn, to be like, break it up.
New Dawn is what we're calling her.
And so then we go to a flashback with Renee from previous season showing up.
Here's a question for you. Like, do you think it's in that actress's contract that she must be gay in every season of Slasher?
Right. I think it's just that Aaron Martin is like, so you're
short
gay.
Haircut. Yeah, like short haircut, kind of boyish look, must be gay.
Yeah. You look a bit like Tig Notaro. And so every role I cast you at is going to be as if I couldn't get Tig Notaro for this role.
Let me also just stress here, the conversation where she gives the information that she is a gay character is how you handle gay characters in a script.
Oh yeah, it's just a very brief kind of mention of like, oh, I have a wife, and that's
it. When I met my wife the first time, and that's it.
Yeah,
because that's, believe it or not, Bo, that's how people talk.
Yeah, but it's what the killer from the last season as well, not the brother sister killers, but the other killer, the one who was thrown in prison. Anyway, they're bringing the orphan to this mansion where she's going to meet Dawn and Robin, and they come out like they are about to be awarded the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize.
Oh, like Robin is the most obnoxious human in the world.
Oh my God, you're so perfect. And you don't have to hug me or anything. And Orphan is like, look, I gotta get in where I fit in.
Orphan's got a grift to do here, Bo. So right.
She
better, like
Orphan's on the grift and runs to Robin and like throws.
It's my favorite Bruce Springsteen album ever.
Orphan's on the grift again. So Orphan runs into Robin's arms, throws herself against him, and is like, I feel like luckiest girl in whole world.
Yeah, and I was like, at this point, I was like that. Is this a Russian accent? Like, because this is the first point where I was like that. Has she just like morphed a Russian accent into this? I also love that when Robin stands up to hug them all as a family, he has Dawn's face like almost in a bear hug, like it's all twisted in the wrong spot. You should go and like maybe should be the screen grab for the episode. Like he's the worst thing, and it reminded me of what was it? Was it Ted Cruz? Like Ted Cruz, where he went to hug his campaign manager and punched his wife.
Oh yeah.
It's that sort of awkward, just this is not a family unit and none of these people can act properly. It was so uncomfortable. But yeah, like the way he walks out, the term I would use, the way he minces out, and Dawn didn't know. 10 years married, Dawn didn't know, Bo.
This is, Dawn is lying to herself. And I mean, the Orphan is not right about a lot of things. She is totally right about, like, how did you not know this?
Yeah. It's like,
you like to fuck mean. How do you not know this? Anyway, after this flashback, Dawn wakes up. And middle of the night, everybody else is asleep. So
this is amazing here, by the way. This is absolutely amazing. She goes across to Vincent to get Vincent's gun off him and trades, like to get the gun from him, threatens him with a lethal paint gun, which would have been a perfect weapon to use. Like,
right?
Do you get my point? Like she has a weapon, and she trades it for another weapon, but she only takes that weapon. She doesn't take both weapons, which is what I would have done.
Yeah, and better yet, she makes a promise like, I'll give it back when I'm done.
Yeah.
It's like, fine. I mean, this is
whatever. Yeah, but like, I love like Vincent's he's a shitty character, but I kind of love him here. But he's like because they have this really awkward. They say, I thought you were going in for a handy, and she's like that. I would if I could find it. Which was like, ooh, sexual tension. And then he's like, she pulls the thing. And she's like, maybe I give you a grace, like in the eye, and he's like that. Here's a gun here. Safety's on the side. Literally just like that. I appreciate it to an extent. He's like that. Clearly, I'm not going to risk my life here. If you're dumb enough to go out there with that gun, right? Granted, I need the gun to survive. But if you're dumb enough to walk out there, have at
it. It is like, good luck. See you later.
Bye. Right. She fucks, Bo.
Off she fucks into the woods looking for the orphan who is still hanging out with Florence.
Oh, but she's escalating, Bo, because we went from I've ate your tongue to I'm going to make you a human pincushion.
She's having her orphan monologue about Daddy is only one.
I thought you were about to say she's having her orphan cake and eating it too.
that as well. Yeah, and she just stabs.
She's like a small like. She's like the fucking the wee woman at the end. They don't look now. Like this, and this is like of all the time. This is when Dawn comes in. And is like, what you doing, Afra? And like I was thinking to myself, like she's taking this surprisingly calm because the first thing I'd be thinking about is, oh, my daughter's a murderer.
It's a real like, no, honey, we don't stab people.
We don't.
And kind of pulls her off and is like, Florence, why did you let her stab you?
Yeah, it's like, let me help you. And she starts kind of cutting one of the cable ties off her arm and then looks around, and in the distance, our slasher killer, the gentleman, as it's known, appears in the distance, and she's like, oh shit, I gotta poop. So she gets her gun and she shoots it like 2 times, 3 times, whatever it is, in the direction of the killer, and the killer doesn't drop. So she's obviously a wildly terrible shot, which makes you wonder, why did she ask for the gun?
Right.
But she shoots a couple of times and then's like
or there are blanks in the gun.
Oh, Boran still. No, Vincent's not involved in this.
All right. I'm saying if that's how it turns out, we've got some evidence for this.
Yes. Yeah. That would make sense. That would make sense. But then, has anyone been shot yet? No. No one's been shot yet.
Yeah.
Possibly. That's an interesting theory. Let's keep that one on the back burner because that one might actually play out, even though I still don't think Vincent's involved. But yeah, so like killer starts coming towards, they run off, and once again, just to highlight that your daughter's a fucking killer, she's like that, I want to watch. And she stops, and Dawn's like, yeah, let's just stand here and watch this woman get fucking run through by this killer who at first lets her go, and this I hate this show. He goes around behind her, cuts the remaining tie, and then Florence gets up, walking with her mouth all of the I've won, and I'm like, this is like just end her life. But and then the killer throws her against the sculpture.
Mm-hmm.
Question for you, Bo. I can't remember the sculpture having two fucking spikes that come out
at boob level. Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't recall that either, but no. somebody saw The Lost Boys.
What
I can't stand about this island? All the damn Florences. And yeah, so she gets murdered by her own sculpture.
Yeah.
And
which is, like, as mentioned later on, is surprisingly poetic and funny.
Yeah, Theo has a pretty nice moment, but
yeah.
So the killer, the gentleman, goes after Dawn and Orphan.
Yeah,
and they run to the bunker. And
they make a beeline for the bunker, which I wouldn't be doing because the last person that was in, last time someone was shut the doors in that bunker, it turned out to be a gas chamber.
Yeah,
so
they ended up real dead. But yeah,
so, I don't know if I'd be running back there, but
so they get inside just in time. Dawn starts looking around for some bullets for her gun, grabs the first aid kit because they were talking about grabbing that earlier in the season, and
then decides to have a heart-to-heart with Afra.
Right, is like, honey, what were you doing to that nice lady tied to her sculpture? Yeah. And Orphan is like, she killed Daddy.
And she's like, well, she didn't actually. The person that was chasing us with the big fucking knife, that's who killed Daddy. And she's like, Afra do something bad. And she's like, yeah. And what happened to her tongue?
Yeah.
What happened to her tongue? Did you have something like that? And she's like, Afra do something bad. And then we get to see the mania, where she just basically starts screaming and trying to rip her mandible off. And yeah, very, very quickly, Dawn searches, finds a sedative, sticks it in Afra's arm, puts her down for a nap.
It gives her a sedative. Yeah.
Yeah. Puts her down. And at no point is anything going to be revealed in this bunker that is going to change the way that Bo views this TV show.
Flashback to Dawn waking up. One night back in her home with Robin in bed.
This is the first night that Afra spent with them as well. Which I would have this kid burned with fire.
Right, like Dawn later is like, we should give this one back. I think we got a bad orphan.
I think maybe like no, like you know, like she's like that. No, I think they just gave us a dud one and took the money and run.
Yeah,
have you seen the previous seasons of Slasher? Rennie's a bit of a crazy woman in all of them.
We got us a bum orphan, and we need to give it back. And Robin's like, I'm never gonna give up on it. But anyway, in this first one though, Orphan is just like standing in the darkest part of the bedroom watching them sleep.
Like a fucking ghoul. Like a ghoul.
Yeah, like the Babadook.
Yeah.
Or Dawn
is Afroduke.
Dawn is like, Afroduke, what do you want? What are you doing here? And she says, I want to sleep with Daddy.
Yeah.
And
I know you've read that as in she wants Robin's D and her V, but I don't think that's what she meant.
maybe, but she says, being alone is for bad girls.
Yes.
And Dawn's like, ugh, all right, well, I guess you can come to bed, you creepy ass kid.
Yeah, but she does say just this one.
Yeah, because it's your first night.
This one night. And when she comes out to bed, though, Robin's like, family snuggles. And I'm like, oh.
And so and so the orphan just snuggles up behind him, like wraps her arms around Robin.
She's two steps away from like actually physically building a pillow wall.
Yeah.
like a Trumpian pillow wall, build a wall. Build to stop Dawn getting any access. And you can see Dawn's kind of staring off at distance going, I don't think this is right.
This seems terrible.
Yeah, and you almost zoom in on Dawn's face and she's like, hey, bet you're wondering how we got here. let me take you back. It's just like, to me already, there is a certain point, right? Afra's supposed to be 13, we find out. There is a certain point where that's just not acceptable.
Yeah, and it's immediately.
It's like the day she comes into the house.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, Dawn needs to be on the phone the next day being like, hey, why did you sell me this orphan? Because this one sucks. I want another orphan. And anyway, so we cut over to a scene that really don't matter, where it's like Liv waking up after she has a vision of her mom's face covered by crabs, and she decides like, hey, I'm gonna go looking for Dawn and the orphan.
Yeah.
And can't find him, so she wakes up Theo, and he's like, all right, well, let's get some knives from the kitchen and we'll go look for.
Yeah, Vincent at this point is kind of like, yeah, she took the gun.
Yeah, Vincent's like, I'm not going anywhere. She took the gun. I did my part.
Yeah, and God Grace bless. Also at the same time, Grace is like that. I've got one eye. I'm not walking about there. I'm like,
right.
Bye.
And so that's it. It sets up like they're out roaming the grounds now that it's morning. Back in the bunker, however, Orphan and Dawn are catching 40 winks, and Dawn wakes up.
Yep.
And she goes to fetch the phone from Orphan's coat.
Oh man.
And like uses her thumb to unlock the home screen on the phone like a spy.
Yeah.
and starts thumbing through some pictures. It's like her and Robin, and she's smiling, and this all seems really heartwarming.
Well, it's all heartwarming to begin with, and then we see a video of them all cooking together, which Dawn does that thing where she was obviously filming it.
Yeah.
And then she starts answering, like she's interacting in the conversation. And then we flip back to a repressed memory of that one time they came into the kitchen going, has our 13-year-old weird, creepy, sleeps in her bed orphan decided to cook something for us? Oh, I wonder what that is. Oh, it's a half decomposed squirrel.
Right, it's some pet squirrel that she had, and they're like, hey, Orphan, why are you cooking this squirrel in this spot?
Didn't we bury this yesterday? And she's like, that raccoon's got to this squirrel. I don't know why I'm making her Transylvanian, but
one decomposing squirrel. So they're like, why are you cooking this squirrel? And she's like, I want to take its bones and make it gold. Then I can keep squirrel with me. I can keep moose and squirrel with me forever.
Yeah.
And like Dawn is like, what? This is horrifying. Robin's like, oh, you silly goose. She's just having fun. It's probably a tradition in her country or whatever.
Yeah. Like, this is literally how Jeffrey Dahmer was born. Like, stop this now.
Also, she wants to work in a chocolate factory, so we're going to go pick her up on application. I want to make sex zombie.
Dude. Like this, like, to me, is the big kind of, we need to hand her back.
Yeah. And Robin's like, don't worry about it, silly goose. Who wants to play some tag? You're it, Orphan. And then they run off scampering, and Dawn is just like, all right. And then back to the present in this bunker, we see that she's got, it turns out that she's taken some pictures of like Florence.
This is fucking hilarious, right? Because she's got like, at first it's a picture of Florence kind of in the distance, and then she's obviously just been like, like just running up to her, taking photos. And Florence eventually gets to that stage that all adults get when a child is annoying them, where the face goes from all happy to the Samuel L. Jackson face from Black Snake Moan, where they're like, you know, like the big intense face, and like, well, like, you know, as Dawn's flipping through, she's like, all right, like this, and then she flips to basically a series of selfies of the orphan beside all the dead bodies, which at first I thought, yeah, that is pretty creepy, right? But then I also kind of, and the first one is her with Spencer, isn't it? It's her with Cronenberg. Yeah. And he's like, and then she's doing the same face, so she's still like, and I'm like, that does feel a bit creepy, but then I was like, he was a prick to her dad, so I kind of like, you know what I mean? It's a hard taking a photo. Plus, she's a teenager. Like, I know people that are older than the orphan, that have taken selfies on the day they went to a funeral, which to me just feels wildly inappropriate.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And you're like, what? Like, you a fucking sociopath? What we're doing here? Like, now is not the time to take a selfie. Even if you think you look cool in that suit and you maybe have a little bit of the James Bond about you, let's not do it today. So she takes that, but then as she's flipping through, it's like literally her having the best time ever in the pantry where all the fucking bodies are. Right? She's like, winky smiley face, you know, like all these bodies, and
duck
like,
lips.
Yeah. She's like, what the fuck is going on here? And then she finds another video, Bo, and we get the info dump that I imagine was the point where you sent me a message going, oh my God, this is glorious.
100% is when it happened. But it's a video of her apparently talking to some boyfriend or brother or something back in the home country.
Pimp, as whoever our fucking handler is.
And she said, as long as I keep legs waxed, we will be rich. Yeah. And in my notes, Duncan.
Yeah.
I have written, I'm right. She's smoking a cigarette. She's got like a fur coat on and a bunch of jewels.
Oh, you big dick devil. You've done it again.
And then, maybe my favorite part of this episode
is, our gangster rap.
She starts rapping about the grift she's on.
Yeah.
And
this is the hidden track on Orphans on the Grift, where like actually like Bruce Springsteen traveled to Moldova and did a collaboration with Afra.
It is the dumbest, most absurd, wonderful moment of this whole season.
I also kind of thought to myself, like, she did this on her phone and she didn't remove it from her phone, knowing fine well her parents were paying for that phone. And none of this makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, nobody's got access to the family iCloud account.
Yeah. It's like, it makes less fucking sense than anything. But right, whatever. We do get this reveal, and at this point, Dawn is now suitably horrified by everything that has happened. But wouldn't you know it, we need to keep the story a rolling, Bo, so we can come back later on for the conclusion of this tete-a-tete in the family.
And now the conclusion of Dawn and the Orphan. Now, I also like when she finishes watching the video, Dawn lowers the phone and there is Orphan now awake.
Yeah.
And says, snoopers get hurt.
Yeah.
So yes, we leave it there. Put a pin in that.
Yeah.
We do have the scene that you referenced earlier with Theo and Liv hunting around for Dawn and the Orphan, where they find Florence's body.
They find Florence's body, and then we get like the sound moves out so Theo can scream in anguish, only to crack a joke about his dead mum 2 minutes later.
I like the fact that he says, "I can't help but feel partially responsible for this."
You're like, fully responsible.
100%. Yeah.
Remember the conversation last night where everyone basically said, maybe you've done a bad thing, and you were like,
And yeah, Liv is like, well, you didn't do this, Theo. It's like, well, he got
He
the
did.
assist, you know?
He kind of dragged her, and he was the one that fucking, cable tied her in this contraption. Yeah. This was his idea. In fact, I believe he was the one that did all the talking about putting her on trial. But he's only partially responsible.
Right. The line he has here is, killed by her own art, the only poetic thing she's ever done. Which is not bad, but also the Liv saying you're not responsible, like she has both hands with her fingers crossed behind her back.
Oh God, yeah. She's like literally in her head, just say something to make him feel better about himself.
Right, I need him for the short term. How do I get him up and moving?
Yeah,
but yes, he is 100% responsible for the death of his own mother.
Yeah, maybe the first opportunity we get to get rid of him once we're on the boat, maybe we take that.
Yeah. So we get another flashback with Dawn and Robin in bed. And this is where Dawn is like, hey, I think we need to talk about the orphan.
Yeah, we need to talk about the orphan.
Yeah. And she's like, I keep trying to connect with her, but she seems distant and also crazy and maybe homicidal. And I think maybe we should, potentially send her back.
I think she's like crazy, homicidal, unable to connect, maybe 45 years old.
Right. I caught her waxing her legs, and that didn't seem right. But we also see that like the orphan is listening in on all this.
Yeah, she's snipping, yeah.
She's right beside the bedroom door, plotting. And Dawn is very rightfully, once again, Dawn, the hero of this whole season.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, Grace is now right behind her, but Dawn is still my favorite character.
Yeah, and she's like, look, this crazy ass kid probably needs a full-time caregiver, maybe needs to go to a home or facility of some kind.
Yeah,
and
put in a burlap sack flung over a bridge.
Throw some rocks in the bottom of the bag, tie the neck of it off, and throw it over the overpass.
I'm just going to say 2 words for you: concrete slippers. Can we get them? How quickly can we get them here? And can we use them, please?
And Robin, so Dawn, it turns out, has been looking up like, here's how you dissolve an adoption contract and things like that, because I think we would all be better served if we get rid of this orphan.
Yeah. And of course, Robin being brought up in the Cronenberg household, where he's perceived as, and I would argue definitely as, a complete fucking failure, right?
Yeah.
Can't even adopt. You know what I mean? Like, there are millions of children in the adoption system across the world, and the one that he adopts is the fucking psycho, the fucking Pika killer of Moldova, Pika. Like, yeah, he's like, listen, like, I know what it's like to be, ostracized from a family, and I failed at so much, and I'm not going to fail at this. I won't fail at this. So I'm like, so you're keeping the child for spite's purposes. Excellent, a great motivation for keeping it. So like, you're literally now 50% of married couples in the world. We're in a loveless marriage. Do you want to have a kid? Yes.
You're keeping the kid on principle to prove a point.
Yes,
and that's
not
it.
Because and that to me, like, once again, is a great indicator of Robin as a character.
Yeah. So all right. So back to the present, and Dawn is now face to face with this orphan.
Yeah.
And Dawn is like, who are you? You maniac child. Well, not even a child. You maniac small adult. What is going on?
She's like, is the Moldova story even true? And she's like, yes, Moldova story true. Yeah, so what we're led to believe, if we can believe anything that she says, is that yes, she was from like a troubled background in Moldova, and at first the whole idea was the grift. So she apparently filmed the rap, because she was like that. I saw the rap video, and she's like, I made that a long time ago.
That was in a rap phase. Now I am more singer-songwriter.
Yeah,
I have guitar.
This is my meat suit. But yeah, like she basically, what we get is this kind of info dump that she she did have a troubled past in Moldova. She didn't really have a family that she could connect with. And the initial part of this was the grift. But it was through Robin's love of her that changed her. Her heart grew 3 sizes that day, Bo. And you know,
turns it into an insult.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like twists it like almost straight away. And what we get is, I think the thing is as well, when she says like, you know, I love my daddy or whatever like that, like Dawn's first reaction is like, where are you fucking him? Yeah, did you fuck my husband? Did you fuck my husband? Did you fuck your dad? You know, like she goes to like, you know, did you fuck him? And then she's like, ha ha ha, nah, yet. She didn't, because like she's like that, just like he's he's gay. Like,
right.
He's like, how did you not?
What are you talking about? Robin wasn't gay. And she's like,
I would be married to that man for 10 years. And she's like, he's gay.
And she says, like, you know, I watch him fucking mean. Yeah. And the way she puts it, she gives like a really creepy orphan giggle. And she says,
yeah,
I hide, I see, I touch myself. And this is the point where Dawn pulls the gun on her.
Which, to be honest, like, as soon as I put the sedative in her arm, the gun would have been out.
Yeah.
Go to forever sleep, my tiny orphan.
Sleep, orphan. Think of the rabbits, orphan.
I tend the rabbit.
And so we cut away from that to go to Liv and Theo, who are now putting Florence's body in the pantry. And once again, somebody points out, like, this room's getting pretty full. We got a lot of bodies in here.
This room's pretty full, and I'm just gonna say unsanitary as well. There's just a lot of dead material in here amongst all this food.
Yeah, well, I may not eat any more eggs out of here. And Grace points out, like, oh, you know what? We never got David Cronenberg up from his bed. We forgot all about him. He's up in his bed still.
Yeah.
And so we need to go get him. And they took off to go get David Cronenberg's body. Vincent and Theo stay behind, and Vincent says, hey, I don't want to end up stacked in the pantry like this.
Yeah, which I'm with Vincent on this one.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to end up here.
Yeah, he's like, I wish David Cronenberg had never found me.
Yeah.
And while they're having that conversation, upstairs, Grace and Liv discover that David Cronenberg's body is now missing. So,
I mean, for what purpose at this point?
I don't know, but the bed is also made up, and apparently the acid
that burned the whole, I mean, that's not there anymore either.
So anyway, back in the bunker, the orphan comes after Dawn in a whirlwind of teeth and fingernails.
Yeah, like she's a Tasmanian devil of fury and violence.
Yeah, I mean, go to the point that she is just clawing, biting off fingers.
Biting her face. Like, there's a couple of moments we get those. And once again, slasher, credit to you here. Like, the effects are fucking awesome in this bit. Like, there are bits where she's pulling like skin up in her teeth, and it's snapping, and the viscera, and it looks great.
Yeah,
it fucking looks gnarly. Like, I'm loving this, but I'm also thinking, Dawn, just punch her. Like, like, hit her.
She's a little person. Yeah, take this bath salt orphan and kick her right in the vagina.
She's been on the crocodile.
She's like, she's on the bad club drug. She's in a K-hole.
But yeah, like she gets mauled to fuck from Afra, and we are going to jump away. We're not going to see the after effect of this until the end of the episode. And turned out Afra was just not full. Well, there's no fill in that stomach.
Yeah, so we cut away, and when you say end of the episode, like the next 5 minutes, because we're
we're pretty much here. Yeah.
And so we go back to the house where all the survivors are kind of standing around once again, trying to figure out who the killer is.
Yeah, they're now working it down, and they're like that. Right. Well, we know for a fact it's not any of us. Right. Which means that it's either Christy or it's Afra, and then Grace is like that. Well, it can't be Christy because the first time we saw the killer, she was with me.
Yeah.
So we can take her off. And then Theo's like that. Well, it's not Afra unless she's on steroids. You know what I mean? Like, and I was like, you clearly just didn't see her rip her mum's face off.
That orphan's capable of more than any of us suspect.
It's like, that's what we should be deploying against terrorists. Just drop one of them behind enemy lines and then leave it. But like they're kind of still debating about, well, if it's not them. And then I kind of thought to myself, why is no one mentioning Spencer?
Right.
Because he's not in his bit. Like, that to me would be the logical, if I was one of those characters, the next logical choice for me would be, well, like, we only found out that Spencer said he had a terminal disease at the table that day, that he said he was going to kill himself, and we didn't actually physically see him die. And the only person that told us, yeah, we saw the body, but that could have been faked. None of us really checked. Is Spencer the killer? But no, we don't even fucking touch that with a barge pole, nor do we mention that his body's missing in this conversation.
Right.
That to me is a huge, colossal, what the fuck is going on here? But we gloss over it very, very quickly. But one can only assume, because it's going to make an appearance as his story plot in the penultimate episode of this TV show.
Only two left.
Yeah, so the penultimate one, for no fucking justifiable reason or anything that the audience, from an audience perspective, will garner or glean anything from, because we know he is fucking dead. But, you know, I guess it's a useless plot point. And they're having this argument. And at this point, this is where Grace comes in, like I said before, going, Cardell! Like she comes in like, oh.
Dude. Right. Dawn, not Grace.
Sorry, Dawn.
Yeah. So, because Grace, the other thing that Liv proposed here, which I think is what's ultimately going to happen in the end of this.
God, yeah, the most stupid thing that's ever been stupidly said on this TV show. You know what will save the day? Burn the mansion down, the only place that has food, shelter, electricity,
burning down the house.
Yeah, like the only place that is actually secure.
Yeah, and Grace is the one who points out, like, well, so then the woods could catch fire. And
Grace at first says, well, I think Vincent at first says, how much is this house worth? Like 15 million or something? And then Grace is like that. This is my house. Like, until, like, and in her head, she's right. Until the will is settled, like, you guys are killing yourselves off, which means there's a very good chance at the end of this, I'm going to be a survivor. And what is it I'm going to inherit? Like, this is my house, and my son grew up here, and all my fucking memories are here. You're not burning down this house. And then they're like, yeah, but if we do that, then the forest burns it. They're about to see it from the shoreline, and it's such a stupid, like, suggestion. It's like, this is the like getting Afra to cut off your nose to spite your face. Like, sorry, it doesn't make any sense why you would do this, or why it would even be proposed. And I think Grace says like that, you really are kind of all going out your way to, like, die. Like you listen to yourself, like you're really just courting death at the moment. What are we doing here? So that idea is kind of pinned for a wee second, Paul. We're going to pin that because, oh man,
yeah, Dawn staggers into this room, horribly mauled.
Yeah, like lips missing, face bitten to fuck, nose bitten through, so it's hanging off to the side, fingers missing, and they're sitting down. I love this bit here where she's like, Afra, and Theo's like, Afra's the killer? And I'm like, no, she's not the fucking killer. We just said a couple of minutes ago she couldn't, like, if she was on steroids, she can't lift a human man. Come on.
Yeah, and
you fucking idiot.
Yeah, Dawn, is like, no, Orphan did this to me.
Yeah.
And Grace is like, oh my God, these are bite marks. That kid went fucking Hannibal Lecter on her. Yeah.
She went absolutely feral.
And so they sit down on the couch.
Ready when you are, Agent Mother.
And they're like Grace is asking for any kind of painkillers, and they're like, we don't have anything but booze. I know.
Well, she's like, she mentioned that she's bitten through a carotid artery, so she's like that. She'll get she'll end up getting sepsis, and I'm like that. No, she'll end up dying because if your carotid artery is severed in any way, shape, or form, you bleed to death. It's not like like you need to get a little bit of Dettol and antiseptic on that one to heal it up. It's like no, like, and I like even at the Vincent's like that. like she's gone, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you know, like I hate to be the harbinger of bad news here, but in fact, this is how we know. This is how we know it's not blanks, Bo.
Oh yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah, you're right. So
Cool, right?
Dawn is like, kill me, you've got to kill me, and Grace is like, no, I'm not gonna kill you. And
Like,
Dawn,
she's like one of those. She's like one of those bodies in Aliens on the wall, strapped and going, "Kill me," because they know the creature's going to come out.
I like Boomer pointing out in chat, like, we cannot let a likable character survive this show. And so,
oh God, no.
Yeah. So Dawn is just begging for death and getting louder about it.
Yeah.
And so
she's a great actress, because when she finally does that scream fucking kill me,
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, let's like, she convinced me.
And Grace is just to kind of shut her up.
Yeah.
Grabs the gun and gives her the bullet that she's begging for.
Yeah, Grace is down an eye, which means that her hearing is vitally important now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and yeah, so she shoots her and Theo's like, fuck this, right? I am done, right? If we're not burning this house, I'm getting off this fucking island. I'm using the boat. And Liv's like, but I've not fixed the boat. And he's like, I'm using the boat.
Yeah.
And he walks out. So Liv chases after him. And so does Vincent, just leaving Grace alone with the body that she just killed. You know, like, it's just like, what would, like, we all have to stick together, or we're not doing that anymore. So they all fucking off they fuck.
Yeah.
And we get like kind of Theo's impotent rage at a boat. But we get the most needless flashback of all the flashbacks, because Slasher does this all the time. When a character dies, as in ends their arc, it's all kind of summed up. We kind of know the standing of Afra now. We know the Robin quandary, and we know that, you know, essentially Dawn is dead. We now get a flashback to them talking out her running away. Right. I'm like, we know that she didn't run away because she's on the fucking island.
All right. So
why do they do it, Bo? Why? This is what I mean. Is this sort of stuff that drives me up the wall. Narratively, it's just not satisfying.
But the button of this episode is still pretty good. Because it's
the
absurd.
Other thing is, yeah, but the other thing is, this would only make sense. This flashback would only make sense if Dawn 100% 180s and was like that. You know what? I was wrong. We do trust you. Don't leave the family. Can't even fucking do that right.
Yeah, not what happens. So the final moments of this episode are when they finally get to the boathouse.
Yeah.
Liv and Vincent are trying to talk Theo out of taking this boat out into the waters because Theo is completely unhinged now.
Yeah.
And Vincent ends up kicking in the side of the boat where it's been patched. So
which once again is I think is like the show once again saying, you know, Vincent could be the killer. You know, look at you sabotage the boat, and I'm like, he's not the fucking killer. Let's get over it.
So you're right. The end of this is going to be Vincent and Liv having to form an unlikely alliance to stay alive.
Yeah, I get this. I've said it before. I think we're going to end up with Vincent, Theo, and Liv at the end of this one. I also think Liv is going to be the only survivor, and I actually think we're going to get what Theo did time for. It's probably going to be something quite bad. And Vincent did time for. I also just don't trust Theo.
Yeah,
at all.
Yeah. And
I think like knowing Slasher, he's done something bad.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So the very end of this episode is the orphan wandering lost and lonely through the woods and
through the Garden of Eden, Bo.
She's like, no one to love Afra.
Yeah. She's like that. No daddy, no one to love Afra. And you're like, what the fuck is it? And then she finds some magic mushrooms, apparently, Bo.
Well, you know it's a magic mushroom because she picks up a mushroom and says, magic. And I'm like, oh, the writing of this show is so bad.
It's fucking honking, Bo.
It's so she takes mushrooms and just starts tripping balls in the woods, covered in blood.
Yeah, like she's covered in blood. The woods are like something from The Color Out of Space. They're all purple and glowy and it's lit up.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
A little bit of Midsummer also of like having everything kind of bend behind her. It's so stupid.
And as she's walking like through, all of a sudden the killer appears, and the killer extends a hand and goes hand in hand towards the credits of this episode. Maybe making, I don't know if you're a member of the audience that actually think they're in cahoots. They are totally not in cahoots. And I don't know if we got this recorded. Probably it was our conversation at the very beginning before we started recording. The Orphan will not survive the next episode.
She will not make it long.
She is not making it through, and I get the feeling Grace is probably also not making it through the next episode. So yeah, I mean, it's a frustrating one because I really enjoy the nonsense and the payoff and the obvious lack of shame that Aaron Martin has to completely rip off the Orphan.
Mm-hmm.
Like just like no shame at all. He's just like, yeah, we're doing this. You know what I mean? I love that aspect about it, but it's once again it's just surrounded by. There's a way to do it. Like, see if the whole show is just that level of nonsense from start to finish, at least it's entertaining and enjoyable. But we've had to wade through so much terrible writing, bad characters and all the rest to get to this. And now it's over with. And we're not going to get that again, which kind of frustrates me, if you know what I mean. What I struggle with is, like, in the writing process for this one, it just feels like at no point does anyone ever really have a grasp on the tone of what they're doing.
Oh no, it's right. It's just,
you know what I mean?
Right. Here is another ingredient to throw in the mix.
Yes.
And it doesn't necessarily fit very well. It made me happy because I called it for the cheap seats. But
100% like entertaining and really, really fun. And like I say, a good payoff to 2 episodes where not a lot actually happened. But you can tonally do really, I don't know, like you could do more of this tone earlier in the season. You like to set up these things just stand out as being. It's the same with the previous season when we did Solstice, and it's like really angsty and over the top. And then we had that one episode in the middle where it was the girl that was asexual and, you know, lived in the headset because of all the trauma that she had as a fucking kid. And then she died in this really horrible way. And we were watching going, that, boy, this just got really serious and bleak. And like it just didn't tonally fit the show. And then we get this episode, which is a joy to watch as a standalone episode, but tonally does not fucking fit with anything that we've seen. It's just perplexing how it all comes together.
And it's not going to come together, Duncan.
Well, that's the problem. That is ultimately the big issue is it's not going to come together in any way, shape, or form that feels even remotely satisfying. But at the same time, we've lost Dawn, which is not great. Even to the end was the most interesting character on the show. Grace is now taking up that mantle, but as you've reminded us, Paul, there's only 2 episodes left. Grace ain't making it out the next episode. She's 100% she's not a survivor. She's definitely not surviving.
I think
which
you're right about
makes
that.
you wonder on some level why we went down that whole road of kind of making her a sympathetic character as someone of color and not from social class. If ultimately she's just going to get the shit kicked out of her anyway.
The last episode 100% is Liv, Theo, and Vincent.
I think so, and I think the show is going to lean heavy into the fact that Vincent is the killer or involved, and then we are going to get the reveal that Duncan was right and Dr. Death is still alive because we still didn't see her body. Mm-hmm. We'll get that. We should get that reveal at the end of the next episode because that tends to be when they give their cards away, and then we have the final episode that'll wrap it all up, where I think both me and you said from the first episode, Liv will be the last person alive.
Mm-hmm. There is a world in which I can see Vincent surviving.
Maybe. I just get
definitely
the feeling
not
that
Theo.
No, Theo's gone. Theo's got. I just want to know what he's done.
Yeah.
I want to know what shitty thing we get, which will be the last episode will be the Theo flashback or the Vincent flashback, one of the two, or maybe both.
Maybe,
yeah. Maybe we cover them both. But yeah, that's kind of. It was easily one of the more fun episodes of Slasher that we've ever watched. I just, like I say, it just, to me, I just want it done now. We've got 2 episodes left. We are so tantalizingly close to Inspector Clouseau, and I can't wait to get there now.
It was bonkers in a way that made the episode entertaining.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not gonna ever try to make the case that
no, you just get a super cut. You get a super cut of the Orphan stuff and just watch that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, well, Duncan, as you said, two more to go. We'll be back in 2 weeks to cover that nonsense. In the meantime, though, if people wanted to check out more of you and what you do, where would they do such a thing?
Please check me out on Podcast Under the Stairs. Very busy at the moment. Lots of spinning plates. Summer series is underway with the prep. But in the next 2 weeks, you are going to get some Gamera episodes from me and Derek. I've started up a new kind of sub-series with Dave Parker, so that'll be out. We're all going to the World's Fair. That episode's coming out by the time this drops. It will have been out for about a week. So my review with the Baz for that one, which turned out to be it was about a 2-hour recording, and turned out to be a really interesting conversation about how his 19-year-old daughter has grown up with the internet, and how my now almost 8-year-old daughter has grown up with the internet, and how we can identify things within this movie, and on some level actually made it a bit more ominous to us when watching it, because we could link those things through. So it's a really, really, really cool conversation. On the Teapots Collective, well, loads of stuff happening over there. Doing the Nasty, continuing the Lord's work, going through the tier 3 list of the video nasties. Opera Omnia, where my resident guest host pulled out last minute and couldn't commit, so that won't be coming back till May now. But I'm really looking forward to that one, because we're going to be doing, as the director, which I can't announce, I just need to get a host locked in, Rain Johnson. So we're going to be doing
very nice. Yeah.
I'm going to be doing his stuff. So he's the next director to cover there. We'll also be on Chronicle. You're going to get in it a review with myself and Jeff Lawn covering, and I've forgotten the movie because I want to see Kidnapped. It's not Kidnapped. Fuck off. I can't remember what it is. It's a good movie anyway. It's a great movie. But that'll be dropping. And the other one is Where to Begin With, which is still working through its run on noir and neo-noir movies. So, yeah, that's it. Let Us Pray. Let Us Pray is the name of the movie. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. That's,
it's Irish-Scottish horror movie.
I remember
Pollyanna, Pollyanna McIntosh. Yeah. Interesting enough, we found a weird fact about that one. A huge chunk of that movie was shot approximately 10 minutes from where I live, which I did not know at all. I was like, is this the reason you've picked this, Jeff? Because it's set in Scotland. There's a character in it called Duncan, and it was shot 10 minutes from my front door. Because you're on the summer series. You don't need to sweet talk me. You're on that series.
You made it. You're in the bigs.
Yeah. So wherever you listen to podcasts, Teapots Collective or Podcasts Under the Stairs or teapotscast.com. Bo Ransdell, what about yourself? You're a busy guy.
Yeah. So we just launched season 20 of Pick 6 movies, starting with Cutthroat Island. So jump in. That is going to be a very fun season. We call this season Bombs Away, which is some historical bombs, cinematic bombs. So you can listen to Cutthroat Island right now.
Is Waterworld in there? Are you doing Waterworld? Are you skipping that for another season?
There's still some debate over that. But for sure, you're going to get Cutthroat Island. The next one will be Mars Needs Moms.
Oh, God.
Right. And then on the back of that, John Carter. So
yeah, well, you've got a couple of you've got a couple of options when it comes to Costner as well. Like if you don't go Waterworld, you can always go to Postman.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So yeah, we're still kind of debating the back 9 of this season, but it's trust me, it's got to be terrible movies. And
cannot wait.
Although I kind of like the Post.
Postman's all right. It's not a terrible movie. It's just they should not have spent that much money making that movie.
No. So that's Pick 6 movies. Obviously, Duncan and Bo come correct. The show you're listening to right now, if you haven't subscribed to it, on the podcast.
Do it, please.
Yeah, subscribe to it over there. And if you have subscribed to the podcast, then go over to youtube.com/Leech Podcasts, where you can see the video version.
You actually see our faces.
And the wonderful piece of art that will summon Wilford Brimley over on the YouTube version. And then finally, the other thing I do is the Dark Parade, which is all things that I do horror related. You're about to make an appearance on that show.
I'm like super excited. You've reached out and you've pitched a movie that I have not seen since I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same, but I really remember loving it.
Yeah, it's a good movie,
and I think it's going to be a fun movie to talk about because I'm not even going to spoil it.
Well, no, it's not anymore. Yep.
But so that'll be coming out in May. Right now on the Dark Parade, we're doing 80 slashers in a season or a month that I'm calling April slashers, and that is we've done April Fool's Day and Happy Birthday to Me, and you're about to get an episode on My Bloody Valentine with Derek, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Who loves that movie as
he does. Yeah.
And then we're going to wrap up the season with Venom and a look at Hell Night. So,
cool. Yeah, I haven't seen Hell Night in a while. That's Linda Blair, isn't it?
It is Linda Blair.
There's
a pretty good Scream Factory edition of it as well. So, but so that's coming up, and then May will be nothing but horror on the waves. And that's where Duncan will make an appearance. And as well as Heart of Horror, which is what I do with K Pollock, where we talk about movies and romance and sex and all kinds of fun stuff. There is also
your show with Jamie.
The show with Jamie, which is What You Watching with Jamie and Bo. And I think that's it. I think that is everything.
What I've realized from this conversation is me and you both are lazy and we need to up our game.
Yeah, absolutely. We ought to
content.
We ought to do a little more. So as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to rate and review where that's possible. If you're watching the video of this, give it the thumbs up. That helps a lot as well. And until 2 weeks from now, when we talk about the penultimate episode of Slasher, the only thing left for me to say is, Duncan, say goodnight, Duncan.
Duncan, say goodnight, Duncan. That's what you said. You said it. It was in that way.
I know I said
it.
Stop it.
Stop it.